Okay, so we've just finished watching Wyvern Hill. Which I believe means that the audience liked it.
Well, they left, so that's...
It is late.
They're up there.
It's
There's
bedtime.
some left.
No, I think that was a good sign. If everybody left, I've done my job, I guess.
So,
No, they stayed for the whole film.
Well, yeah.
absolutely.
But it is late. There's trains to catch, life to live, beds to get to.
So, we are joined by Jonathan, Pat, Ariana, and Ben. Avyianna, sorry.
It's fine, don't worry, it's unpronounceable and unspellable.
No, it's not. I can
I think I've spelled it right, haven't I? I might not have been able to say it right, but I think I've spelled it right. Have I spelled it right?
I can confirm it is spelled correctly.
Well done. Okay, so let's start off with where did the idea come from? And what are your inspirations? Because there's definitely some telltale signs of something in there.
I mean, well, the idea actually, it was Keith Temple, who's a writer, well, used to be a writer on Doctor Who, but actually, I think he's starting again. But anyway, he approached me with a script. Well, he had a script idea, and it was a horror film, and it was his first horror film. But he'd just gone through a horrible experience with his dad, because his dad had Alzheimer, and so that got into the script. And I read the script, and what I loved about it is that it had that sort of kitchen sink drama, but then it flipped into horror. Obviously, the first thing I did, I said to Keith, look, you know, this is great, but I need to put my touch on it and make it really horrible. And the influences, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but obviously Dario Argento is one, John Carpenter is another, Mario Bava, the classics really, you know. Yeah.
And how did you come to be involved in this project?
Thank you, God. First of all, Facebook. Somebody shared the post that they were looking for an old lady. It was,
That wasn't said like that.
No,
We're looking for an old lady.
It didn't actually say that, but it's just, you know, I saw the post and I thought that looks interesting, I'll find out more. Got in touch with Jonathan, he sent me the script, and I just thought, oh my God. It's so rare that there's a role like that written for an older woman. And I did a self-tape. He asked me to pick a scene from the film and do a self-tape, which I sent him. I did quite a lot of research on Jonathan as well, because, you know. And everything I read and saw, and I saw him in an interview actually on IMDb too, and I just thought, this guy's so lovely, he's so good. I've seen his short films. What's not to like? I have to get this role. So I chose a scene.
And then she met me.
No. And I mean, I think I waited 24 hours to hear.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, the whole thing was just extraordinary luck. And I've said this before to people, but I had literally said to my partner a few weeks before, if I could just get one great role in a film before I die, I'll be happy.
And what a great role.
Yes.
And very well delivered, Pat. We really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much.
So, moving on to Avyianna.
Yes,
Almost,
well
you're
done.
getting better.
I'm getting there. So, it's interesting that you said about the Doctor Who connection, because the one thing I thought about your role, I'm not going to say your name again, it's too late in the day, is you are very much like some sort of Doctor Who character. If you look at, you're like this fictional character almost, aren't you? You kind of drift in and out, you say these incredible things about dragons, and then you bugger off. So how did it feel to be such, I mean, because you are kind of felt throughout the whole film, so how did it feel to get that, and how did you become involved with the film?
Well, I have to thank Ben for getting me involved in the film, because I auditioned, I think, twice, maybe even 3 times, to be in one or 3 of Ben's films, unsuccessfully. Every time they hated me, couldn't get a job. But then Ben very kindly put me in touch with Jonathan and said, maybe Jonathan will hire you. I'm not going to hire you, but he might.
We have a folder of really good actors that we haven't found a role for, but we think are amazing and worth working with. So that's the folder you were.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And I didn't even have to audition, I don't think. Oh, you'd seen an audition I did for Ben playing a witch.
Yeah, it worked.
But yeah, as for the Doctor Who thing, I think I often get cast as slightly otherworldly presences. I'm doing the same thing now in a film with Michael Fausti, who's up next tonight, playing a sort of otherworldly presence who's not sure if it's a real person or a figment of the imagination. I don't know what it is about me. I think maybe it's because I'm quite tall, which gives me a slightly unusual presence. I sort of tower over people, maybe. I don't know.
That's good.
I get lots of jobs. I found my niche.
It's a good niche to be in.
I'm not complaining.
And Ben, that's quite a demanding role that you got into. How easy was it to deliver what was required?
Well, I thought I had a really easy job, because for most of it I basically turned up and just hung out in the background for a little while until the big sort of finish scene, and get down to your pants, walk around the house. It's not that difficult. But what was really great was I had a lot of time working with Jonathan about the character to try and figure out what it was he wanted and find something. So there was a lot more prep work than I've usually done. So I felt more confident going into this, that I had a good idea of what he wanted and what we could do. And actually, what I was looking with, the first time I'm technically on screen isn't even me. It was Pete, actually, who plays Pat's son-in-law. He was my body double. And then Jonathan sent me the scene and just said, we need you to do the lines now. So I did a few different versions of the lines. We swapped that backwards and forwards. So it was a combination then of what Pete had done and the lines that Jonathan liked. And that was kind of right, well, that's my basis for going in. So I had a great time. Fairly easy, really.
Welcome to low budget.
So for me, I think the film changed direction from the pitchfork. That's for me. It's like oh, where are we going here? It's like the whole tone changed, the colour palette changes, and everything just gets really, really kind of different. What was your? How did you go about making sure that the film has such significant change well, I mean, that was where it changed for me, but I mean, others may see a slightly different change, but how difficult is it to suddenly change the way you operate?
Are you sure we have time for this question?
It's only the Fausti, we can make him wait.
No, it's a great question actually, but it's quite a complicated one, because essentially the film does change, but I think what I was very conscious of was that I wanted everything to be installed so that it doesn't change just out of nowhere. So there's a few key moments where things are announced, but they're not necessarily obvious to whoever is watching. Maybe it takes a second watch, or maybe you catch it the first time. But there are key moments of kind of synchronicity that happen on screen. So for a good example of that is the scene where Pat is talking to Emily in the bar cinema, and it's edited with Pete's discovery of the house. But at the same time, we shot Pat in such a way that if you look carefully, you actually, with the parallax of the camera move and the focal length that we shot it on, you can actually see Ben literally coming out of her mind in that moment. Yeah. And so I think for me the idea was I wanted everything to be there. It's on screen, and I didn't want to make it obvious. I didn't want to say, look, this movie is going to change. But if you look carefully for it, everything is installed beforehand. And so the scene with the pitchfork, I mean, the thing is, Ben is actually in the frame with Pablo before the scene. Ben is stood naked in the room. I mean, he switched to 6 weeks later, but you also have Mike, who plays Mr. Punch, who's standing in the kitchen, so everything is there. So I don't know, I don't think I got to that specifically with the idea of a switch in mind. I can see why you would feel that way, because that's the clear break where everything essentially kicks off and we start throwing things in there. But what was really important for me was that I set up everything so that it does feel like a switch, but at the same time it feels coherent. That makes sense at all?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have we got any questions out there? I mean, I have more, but straight at the front, Chris, you can shout.
Okay, so where was it actually shot, the village?
It's actually all shot in Hereford, Herefordshire. Yeah. Funny thing. I mean, the one thing we found out, which is really, I mean, I guess a happy accident because it adds to the confusion. But what we found out is Hereford doesn't look any different in winter and summer. So we did the whole Christmas tree, and we're like, okay, so we're going to show the passing of time. And then we went back to film the outside, and it was like, okay, it just looks like summer. But I guess the way that we took that was it kind of adds to the weird thing where you don't really ever know where she is, what she's doing, what time it is, or any of that. But so I went on a tangent. But yeah, Herefordshire, all in Herefordshire.
Yeah,
one more over here.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, hi, thank you. I'm not used to seeing a horror film, so I was just wondering, what's it like, how to film that, like for the actors and for the directors and stuff? I mean, is it really terrifying, or?
I felt deeply emotionally involved with everything that was happening. It felt incredibly real, and so yes, it did feel scary, but at the there's a strange move where you're watching prosthetics being done and things being painted on, and you're changing scenes and setups and lighting and all the things. So you've got this strange conflict between, I genuinely was devastated, and I really felt all the things. One of the advantages of being mature, I suppose, is that I've been through so much myself, that the grief of losing someone, you know, and feeling like, shit, what did I come upstairs for? Is a reality. I mean, mind you, I felt that when I was 18 too, so it's not just that. But yes, I was scared at times, but also knowing that I'm in a film and that it's not real, but it is. So, yeah.
I find horrors, I find horrors and comedies equal in terms of how much fun they are. Maybe it's because I always tend to play the killer, so I'm not usually at risk. But I find them a lot of fun, and there tend to be more laughs on a horror set and a comedy set than doing drama. I think drama always seems...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which may be why, because you were a very dramatic role in that.
Yes, I mean, I had the best time of my life. You know, that's without question.
And yeah, and for me, I mean, obviously, the thing for me was I had to be very prepared. We didn't have that much time to shoot it, or that much money. We had £5,000 to shoot this whole thing, and we shot it in 25 days straight. So you kind of get into zombie mode where you just go through everything and you just film everything, and the days just go, and you feel like there's kind of days you're not really. The only time that it was weird was. You know, so there's the first scene where somebody gets murdered after the opening, Clover in the wheelchair, and she's a great actress, but she didn't want to come out of character between takes. So we were like 5 blokes around her, and she just kept crying in that wheelchair. And we were like, okay, let's just hope the police doesn't walk in on that, because that will be weird. But other than that, no, it's just like, I think for me, it's just like any other film. It's all about preparation and, yeah.
Have we got any other questions out there? Peter, sorry?
No.
No? Okay. So let's start from Ben and work our way back this way. What's next for you?
I'm currently just finishing off a couple of feature films, which I've done with my producing partner Pablo, who was the farmer who got killed in that, and I'm desperately waiting to do Jonathan's next film, which I'm really excited about. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, so I'll say no more yet, except I think it's going to be amazing. And I'm not a bad guy.
I am also hoping for another job from Jonathan. Wink, wink. No, I have a few films coming out this year, and also very excited to be working with Michael Fausti as well. I know, right?
All right, stick here with him. Come on. Where is he?
Hey!
Stealing the show.
I am available, actually. I have heard that Jonathan is doing another film, but so far he doesn't seem to want an old lady in it.
Oh, sorry. There we go. I'm the bad guy again.
What can you tell us about your next film?
I can tell you it's called The Sunset Dogs. I can tell you it's a Herefordian, dystopian, post-apocalyptic samurai horror movie, coming of age, with lots of weird things, violence, and a nice touching story in the middle of it, actually.
Just like every other film, right?
Yeah, I mean,
good.
why be an indie if it's to just make any other standard shit you can see everywhere else?
I just want to say I'm very good at barking. Believe it.
I noticed on the set, man.
Well, listen, all of you, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for bringing the film. Thank you for letting us all show it and see it. And let's give them a final round of applause.